Welcome back to A Lot About Loss. I am Becky, your host. I have a guest coming on today. We're going to meet Liz and we're going to talk about her baby, Alivia. And both Liz and I have been on this loss journey for a long, long time. I am 13 years in and she is 17 years in. So, we're going to talk about how our grief has changed over time, where we're at today, and what we did to get to where we are today. And Liz has her own podcast called the Healing Hearts Podcast. So we did kind of an episode swap. So if you want to go and listen to hers, I'll leave the link for her podcast below. And without further ado, let's meet Liz.
Becky, thank you for being here. And I can't wait for this conversation just to sit down with someone who gets it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited too, and we're doing like a podcast swap
Yes.
thing. So I'm gonna be on yours, you're gonna be on mine. But yeah, I'm excited for this. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I thought we could start with just by sharing just a little bit about, I know your listeners know your story and my listeners know my story, but let's just share,
Yeah.
a quick little synopsis of our story, for our listeners to know what's going on.
Yeah. So my daughter, Gracie, was born August 2nd, 2012, and she was born with a congenital heart defect. So she was basically born with half of a heart because the left side of her heart didn't develop. So she had open heart surgery the first week of her life. She had a lot of ups and downs for 82 days. And on the 82nd day, she passed, and none of us knew it was coming. It was just kind of a shock to everyone. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And similarly, like Olivia, was born. So I had a perfect pregnancy. So there was no real reason to think there would anything to happen. And Olivia was born with a slight heartbeat and not breathing. She was born on her due date, exactly 40 weeks. And she was
Girl.
immediately taken to the NICU, because of just not being able to, be breathing on her own, and things like that. And that's where she stayed for 34 hours. They did, the one thing that doctors tried to keep us semi positive about is that babies are resilient. The first 24 hours, anything can happen. Um, Unfortunately, that was not our case. Eventually, we were pretty much told that there was no brain activity for Olivia and that we would have to make decisions eventually, but they were going to let us see family and things like that. Olivia helped us make that decision the breathing tube went into her esophagus. And so the decision was either to retube her and, let people come and say goodbye. At that point, my sister was still on her way. And retubing her would mean that we'd have to untube her again. Like we'd have to make that decision. And we just took that as an opportunity and a sign that like this was our time to say goodbye.
Yeah.
And so she was able to she lived 8 minutes on her own. We
Mm.
got to hold her, without any tubes and all of those things alive for 8 minutes, which is, a blessing because we didn't think we'd get that opportunity. So
Do you feel like the number 8 shows up everywhere?
I actually think the number 23 shows up more.
What's
Because of
23?
the 23 is when she was born. July 23rd
Okay.
is her, birthday, and so that I see that number more than I do, um, 8, and the funny thing is my brother would mention that because Michael Jordan was number 23, and we grew up in Chicago,
Mhm.
and that's where he was from, and he was a big Jordan fan, so he always calls her little baller, like, it was yeah, mhm,
That's so cute.
yeah. Yeah. So 23 is just one of those that, and it's so odd because it's one of the most oddest birthdays. Like, because we have 28 runs in our family, 6 runs in our family, 16 runs in our family.
Mhm.
But she's like her own little, like, I had to have my own date.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
82 is a number that shows up a lot, and that's how many days she was here, and, like, it's so funny, like, even like, my sister-in-law, Jen, she brought nail polish to the hospital one day to paint Gracie's toenails, and she asked the nurse, like, "Can we, like, have some auntie fun and, like, paint her toenails?" And they're like, there's probably something somewhere that says that we can't allow you to do that, but, like, yeah, go do it."
Oh,
Right?
fun.
And so, this nail polish, it was like the Wet n Wild, right? Back from, early 2000s, 1990s, whatever, and it was hot pink, and Jen, my sister-in-law, had gotten this Wet n Wild nail polish. It's the whole story is in my book, but she had gotten this nail polish when she was young, like, in
Okay.
elementary school, and she had, like, earned enough points to, like, get something, right?
Mhm.
And there was something what was it? The number 82, um, oh, what was it? Or no, what is it? 23. But, like, 23 is another, number that shows up, but it was like, what was it? I kinda wanna, like, look it up. Um, if I can't figure it out, you can just leave that whole story out. It's, do, 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 do. You know what? It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I had this whole okay. It's fine. It's fine. But, like, she had this nail polish, and it cost her 23 tickets or something, and it was just like,
Yeah,
right?
there's that number. Yeah.
And,
Um,
yeah, it's just I don't know. I have
yeah.
this thing with numbers. Numbers, the same numbers keep, like, showing up, like, everywhere. Like, lately, it's been 8, and that she
Okay.
was an August baby, so 8 is showing
Yeah.
up, but
Yeah.
so funny.
There's something to that though, like connections and signs and numbers are definitely like the angel numbers and all of those things that like definitely show up when all of a sudden you feel like you need them or they're yeah, there's a lot of people follow that. I don't necessarily know all I don't know all the details, but
Yeah,
again, I know lots of people that have lost a loved one or going through something that'll be like, I saw my favorite number or a number that my mom really liked, and that was, a sign from her and
yeah,
things like that.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
absolutely.
It's cool, and sometimes these numbers have, like, biblical meanings, and, like,
Mhm.
I think the number 8 is, like, new beginnings. And,
Yeah.
the number 7 shows up so many times in the Bible, and it's just,
Yeah.
I don't know, numbers, like, lately have just
Yeah.
been like,
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
I don't
some
know.
there's
Yeah.
something.
I never numbers were never the big thing we connected with.
Yeah,
We were more symbols.
yeah,
Like obviously, I mean, a typical one is always butterflies and things like that. And we were Olivia's nursery would have been Winnie the Pooh um themed. So anything like that pops up like Winnie the Pooh and things like that always make me think of her and things
yeah,
and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
and there's a lot of really good grief quotes that go with Winnie the Pooh. So they just like
Yes!
they sit with me in just a way that I'm just like, yeah, that's what yeah.
Yeah, when you heard them when you were a kid, you were like, "Meh," right?
Yeah.
And, like,
Yes.
now,
And now they're like, oh, I get it.
gosh,
Yeah.
so deep, it's so true, it's so
Yeah.
you look at everything differently, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Your
Mhm,
whole life changes.
mhm.
Yeah.
Perspective, everything.
What was life like after? Like when those very I mean, so 13 years, right?
Yep,
Do
13
you
years.
do you remember that first year?
I do very much so. It was so hard. Like, after her funeral, you just kind of wake up in bed in the morning and you're like, you make a decision, am I gonna get out of bed today or am I just gonna lay here? And especially for you, like, you were newly postpartum, so you're
Yeah.
dealing with all of that too.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
that's a whole 'nother nest egg.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I found that I needed distractions. If I was gonna
Mhm.
get up, I needed distractions. I needed to have my mind on something else, otherwise I would spend the entire day in bed. And for me, that thing was baking. So I just started baking like every day. I was making cookies and cupcakes and cakes and just everything. And my husband could not eat them fast enough. I was like, what the heck am I supposed to do with this? And I had started a new job. So Gracie was 82 days old, and my maternity leave was up
Mm,
before she passed away, and we had decided for me to leave my job so that I could be with her all the time. After she passed, I was like, what am I gonna do? Like, I need to keep busy. I need to do something with my life right now. And I got a new job like pretty soon after, and it was in a bakery, and I was decorating cakes. And I found that I was not ready to
mhm.
go back. So like working in a bakery, like parents with their kids are coming in all the time and ordering birthday cakes, and I would just like, "I'm sorry, I need to like excuse myself, just I'm so sorry." And you didn't, you know,
Yeah.
explain yourself like.
Mhm.
And I think especially when the loss is new, like, you don't wanna explain yourself. You don't wanna be this odd person out, and, I would just leave and go to the bathroom several times a day, without anybody knowing what was going on, and, I found that I just was not ready to go back to work, back to, to people who didn't know my
Yeah,
story, and
yeah,
maybe if I would be as brave as I am now, maybe I could have opened up and maybe I could have kept that job.
maybe. Yeah,
Maybe.
yeah, maybe. Yeah,
I don't know.
but it takes time, as cliche as that can sound. It does take time. And very similar to you, I had to be distracted. That first month after we lost Olivia, my husband and I were just talking about it. We actually traveled a lot. My friends kept us busy. We were,
Hey.
always on the move. Like,
Yeah.
so, my husband was in school, and he was supposed to be taking summer classes and took an incomplete for the summer, just because obviously of everything that happened. And so we also decided not to return to our apartment. The apartment we had was where we were going to bring Olivia home, and she had a nursery all set up and all the things, because we had no indication that she was not going to be okay.
Mhm.
And so we made the decision to be honest and open with our landlord and say we can't come back to the, and they let us break the lease. Thankfully, they were very compassionate and understanding. And we lived with my parents for a month while we looked for a new apartment, because we still had to have somewhere to live. And things like that. But I decided, well, I'll just return to work. I'll return to something. And I was a substitute teacher. So I returned to be a substitute teacher, thinking like, this is fine. I got this. These kids are old. Like, I'm, kindergarten, second grade, all the way up to high school. I got this. No, I didn't have it. No.
Oh,
The minute I would meet a little girl named Olivia, even was spelled with an O, I was in tears. Like, it was, and it's not something like, I wish I could be like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom and cry. Like, I had to just hold it all in. And I was like, I think I subbed for like a week and a half off and on. And I told my husband, I can't do that. I no, no, there's just no way. I'm not ready to be in society right now.
mhm. I was, we weren't necessarily, like, trying for another baby, um, but we got pregnant in, what, May of 2013, so not even a year. Um, and I remember, like, telling our family that we were going to have another baby and just having everybody so excited and me feeling so angry at them for being excited. Like when I found out I was when I like took the pregnancy test, I was just so mad. And I cried on the bathroom floor forever, and I just kept on thinking, why this baby? Why couldn't I have raised Gracie? I don't want this baby. I want Gracie back, you know? Um, so I was just angry and confused, and like the whole first year was just so much anger.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know, like what was when
I
you
was just
found out you
sad.
were pregnant? Yeah.
Right after Olivia, I was just sad. And we knew right after Olivia, we weren't ready to try to have any more. Olivia was a complete and utter surprise. We had only been married 3 months. Like
Yeah.
she wasn't part of the original plan to begin with. So like when went in for my 6 week appointment and they were like, what do you want to do for birth control and stuff like that? And I was like, give me an IUD. Like, I don't want to be pregnant. Like, I'm not ready to be pregnant. There's just not at all. Nathan's in school. Like, we didn't know what the plan would be now, obviously, because, plans change. But the plan was for us not to even have kids till he graduated, and here we were ready to embrace Olivia. And then, life, detoured us a different way. And so it wasn't until for us, it was about probably like 9 months later after Olivia had died, in that like April, May time that I was at a wedding with a friend and she had a 4 month old and she was the bride. So she had her 4 month with her and she was trying to dance. And at one point, she just kind of runs over to me and she's like, "Can you hold him?" And I was like, "Okay." And so she handed me, and in that instant, holding him was the exact moment that I was like, "Yeah, I'm ready. Let's have a baby.
Yeah.
Like, let's do it." And literally a month later, I got my ID taken out. And then we went on that journey of try to get pregnant, and so when I saw, the lines of being pregnant that first time, everything I was excited, I was hopeful, but I was terrified because at that point we were 18 months out of after losing Olivia. So I had love support groups, live by them, like they got me through some of my hardest times, but I also learned a lot about lots of different ways babies die. I learned about stillborn and I learned about miscarriage and I learned about NICU and I learned about that, like, babies don't always come home from the NICU. And so, like, being able to learn all of those things and relate on a lost mom level was beautiful. But then when you see those two little lines that says you're pregnant after loss, you remember all of that other stuff too.
All of it. And it's
Yeah.
constantly, you're constantly thinking about it every
Yeah.
day. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember, when I was pregnant with, my second Amelia, we had to do all the same tests and things that we did with Gracie because it could be, the heart defects are often, genetic. And so we had like the same echocardiogram, like the ultrasound on the heart when she was inside me. And it's funny, I actually, well, not funny, but so when we had that echocardiogram, it was at the same hospital that I had Gracie in. It was the same exact cardiologist that diagnosed her when I was pregnant with Gracie. And like even them telling me all four chambers of her heart is they are there, she's healthy, like no heart defects. Like I thought I would be feeling like relieved,
Right.
right? And be like, "Okay, well this I can do this. Like this is going to be an actual normal, you know, baby." And but I didn't. I was
Yeah.
still just terrified every
Yeah.
day
Yeah.
because I was just afraid of uh, losing another baby. just another baby dying.
Yeah.
Because, like after, have a loss, you have so many conversations with,
Yeah.
different women that have had different experiences and circumstances with their pregnancy or baby that they lost. And um, you are constantly thinking about their story and like that happened to me and like what if this and what if that and that you're just not aware of it until you have that loss, until you have those conversations.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Pregnancy after loss is a whole nother beast of emotions and life. It's its own, like, its
Peace.
own grief,
Yeah.
like it's, yeah, like,
Yeah.
yeah, because like Olivia, Zoe, my after Olivia, she was I was terrified I was gonna lose her. Like, I was terrified the whole pregnancy, even to the point of, like, I started, like, bleeding, and I was like,
Yeah.
She's gone." It's like, I mean,
Yeah.
I was like, I tested 4 days, and I was already bleeding, and the doctor's like, "We can bring you in. Like, we're gonna do all the things." She's like, "But that's, you
Yeah.
tested real early." Like, she tried, I mean, and we had the same doctor that we had to live with Olivia, because she was wonderful. It was not anything they did or anything like that, and they were wonderful. Like, we had all kinds of extra testing, and we had all kinds of things that were not necessary, because my pregnancy itself was
Normal.
quote unquote normal.
Right.
I had gestational diabetes, and that was it. You know, Otherwise, the only reason we did all of these other things was just for my peace of mind. I had an ultrasound every month. I had my HGC levels the minute I found out I was pregnant. All of those things. If I felt uncomfortable in any way, or if I didn't think I felt movement, my doctor was like, "Then come on in." You know, um, so I'm very grateful that was the case and all of the things. And then I had elective C sections because Olivia was born vaginally and all the things. And we did have an autopsy done on her, and the medical examiner said that his recommendation, or what he thought was the problem, was Group B strep, which is that national living organism that you get tested for. And if you have it, you're given antibiotics. And if you don't have to worry about it. Um, the odd thing is I was given 3 rounds of antibiotics, more than the average, and still, and things. And so we did do some testing on that while I was pregnant with Zoe. And the only conclusion they can come to is that my doctor thinks that I probably have a higher concentration of that organism in that lives in there, and that, like, they'd have to do some testing to find out exactly the dosage that they would need to, like, kill it for me to have a vaginal birth. And I was like, well, I don't need to be, bring me a healthy baby, and the best way to do that would be a C-section. And my husband used to tease that, like, if I was ever wanted to do a vaginal birth again, he'd divorce me, because he saw so much more than I did.
Yeah. Oh my
I
gosh, yes.
Yeah, like, I was laying down giving birth, and as I'm birthing, all of a sudden he sees a room go from 2 people to 20.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember any of that, and that's all he remembers.
Mhm.
Is this, all of a sudden it went from kind of a little bit of emergency, because she wasn't coming out so well, so they had to use a vacuum, until all of a sudden it was an emergency, and it was like everybody was there. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
he used to tease that, like, "No, we're never doing that again."
Yeah,
So,
I had 3 all 3, C-sections and, Gracie wasn't supposed to be, um,
okay.
but she had, really low heart rate, when I was in labor um, and it kept on happening and happening, happening. So she was, like, in distress, and so they're like,
Yeah,
"Let's get her out." Um, and then I was so determined I was gonna have a VBAC after that. My babies just love to stay up high in my ribs and just stay there all day.
yeah, no, we got to pick their birthdays. That's kinda where
Oh,
we were.
right? Yeah.
It was just like, "We can go 39, that's the earliest you can go," and I picked a birthday, and Logan, my youngest, is the only one that is 3 weeks early, because he decided to be the most traumatic. pregnancy I've ever had.
Oh my gosh.
Well, because he just wanted to, like, he decided I had gestational diabetes with all 4 of them, but with Logan, it get to the point where I had to give myself insulin, but then even
Yeah.
insulin wasn't bringing my blood sugars down, so they're like, "He needs to come, like, even earlier," so he was born at 37
Yeah.
weeks.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm a type
yeah,
1 diabetic, so I get that.
yeah. Yeah,
Pregnancy
yeah.
is hard on our blood sugars, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's something, and I mean, can't imagine doing it as a type 1 diabetic because, like, doing it as just a gestational diabetic sucked. So
Right.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
think with, the gestational stuff, it's harder to manage
Yeah.
because you don't have all the tools that a type 1 has.
Mm, true.
Like I have
Yeah,
a continuous glucose monitor on my arm all the time. I have all the insulin and my body's used to, artificial insulin and,
yeah,
anyway,
yeah. No, no,
talking
my
about
body didn't like any of
diabetes.
that. With Logan is the only one that it was like, "Guess what? You know, we're gonna make you be nervous the whole time
Yes, yes.
differently.
Oh my
Differently
god.
than the first time."
Yeah,
Because every pregnancy, even after your first pregnancy after loss, is different. Like every pregnancy is different in general, but then every like being when I got pregnant with Grayson was different than when I was pregnant with Zoe. Like my nervousness eased a little,
little, yeah.
but at the same time didn't. Like it was weird. I
Yeah,
don't know if you
because
experienced similar.
right, because, that first pregnancy after loss is like you're terrified the entire time. But at the end, of your pregnancy, she came out just fine, normal, no complications, right? And then you have another pregnancy and you're like, "Okay, well, I know I can have a normal baby, right?" So, like, it eases a little bit. My 3rd was different because I had gone through, 2 years of cancer treatment,
Yeah.
and they had told me during that time that I could never have biological children because of the risks,
Oh,
of it spreading to baby and then recurring for me, and I, prayed for contentment and just having
right.
one living
Mhm.
baby for the rest of my life, right? I had an even stronger desire to have another baby, like, 5 years
Yeah.
after my cancer, was gone, and, um, so I knew I was supposed to have another baby, and, so that pregnancy was on a different level, and I
Mhm.
was scared about different things,
Yeah.
right? The cancer coming
Yeah.
back, or, you know, but
Yeah.
we had all the same tests that we had with Gracie, right? And yeah, that pregnancy was a little bit easier than
Yeah.
with Amelia. Yeah.
Where would you say you are now, 13 years later? 'Cause, we're not the same person, and we're not in that acute state where we have to make the decision to get out of bed. We clearly are getting out of bed. We have other children to take
Kids.
care of
Yep.
too.
Yep.
So, like but there's still days where sometimes I don't want to.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, so yeah, 13 years in, like I've been talking about Gracie this whole time. I never stopped. I've only um s- started talking about her more and more and more as the years have gone on because that's really healing for me. And it's also healing to be able to help other moms that are going
Yeah.
through their child loss and talked about my baby on so many different platforms and YouTube and now podcasts and um, been interviewed on TV and like all these things. And I've written a book and put her story into a book, and I did my most amount of healing when I was writing that book
Mhm.
because there's like this trauma response. in, like, really traumatic situations where you, like, completely forget
Mhm.
everything that's going on, and I didn't even realize that I had forgotten things
Yeah.
until I sat down and went through her entire story, typing it out, and I realized that I had forgotten about some things. And, asking, the people that were around when Gracie was alive, asking them, like, "What was your experience with this?" And, like, you just have new perspective, and,
Yeah.
um, so it was so healing, and I cried so much, and so here we are 13 years old, like, I just published this book. I am speaking at a conference next month for the first time, and, like, I wanna do more of that, and I think for a really long time, I was just lying about being okay, you know? "How are you,
Mm.
Becky?" "Oh, I'm fine." Like,
Yeah.
I don't have to lie about it anymore.
Yeah.
I can say, "I'm okay." I have done so much work with my grief and talked to so many different people and, had so many different conversations and met so many people that have done their own healing. And, I didn't even start this book until 10 years after Gracie passed away. And I think as time goes on, things keep coming up and things keep being revealed to us that, you know, has to be a hard part of our healing and we just do it because we've experienced by doing, one thing that helped us, keep going. And once you experience that again and again, like you just expect it to keep on happening. And I don't know. What about you? You've been 17 years, you're 17 years old.
Yeah, 17 years out. And I would say that a big chunk, so I've lost both of my parents as well. I lost my dad in 2018 and lost my mom in 2020. And as much as I moved through a lot of grief of Olivia, and she, very similar to you, we talked about her constantly. She was, the minute we had other children, they knew they had a sister. She's a part of our life since the day she was born and has been since. Even 17 years later, my 8-year-old knows who his 17-year-old sister is. You know, um, but losing my parents made me go back and really think and evaluate the grief that I was in with Olivia. And I think I was a lot more stuck than I realized. I think I just did the things because that's what you're supposed to do.
Mhm.
I wanted more kids, so I had more kids. My husband graduated from school, so then we moved and he had a career and I stayed home and I just did for a long time, I just did the things. And then losing my parents, I lost a lot of a sense of identity. And it made me kind of go back in and really kind of dig deeper and work through all my grief, including Olivia, which is then when I started to talk about it more openly, publicly. I talked about it with friends and I talked about it with people that, would ask about her, but nowhere near like on platforms, and that's where I started. Like, I have the podcasts and all the things. And now I share all grief off the rooftops because I think it's just deserves to be, it doesn't need to be taboo. None of it needs to be. It needs to be screamed from there because it is probably the most universal thing people experience. Not necessarily even the loss of a loved one, but grief in general. Like, there's grief in your, cancer journey. You know,
Losing
you
a
know,
job or
yeah, exactly. Moving. Like,
yeah.
we just
Mhm.
moved from Pennsylvania to Virginia this last year, and there's a lot of like emotion and grief and all of that. And so I think that's, you know, and to how I got here, it really is just time and choosing to keep going. You know, it can sound so like sometimes all of those grief things you hear sound so cliche, but they really are real. It is like one moment, one breath, one step at a time is going to get you to where you want to go. And there's going to be moments where you're going to like fall 20 steps back, eh, pick yourself back up and walk the one step. That's a win. That's the bravery in grief, is just continuing one step at a time.
So what sort of things did you do, like physical things, did you find, like, brought you back some joy again?
So like after we lost Olivia, I focused a lot for myself. That first year was just, what can I do to honor her? Anything and everything I did. And so we had Olivia buried. And so she was at a grave where my parents would be buried. They had a plot because we weren't expecting to bury a child. So we didn't have any of these things planned out, or anything like that. And so when we had to make decisions whether to bury her or cremate her, um, burying is kind of how I grew up. It's like my parents already had a plot, so it was just the thing to do. And so they agreed to let us have her be at the head of their headstone, of like their plot. And so that's where she was. And so, but we couldn't, my husband I was a substitute teacher and he was a full-time college student. We could not afford a headstone. Like this just wasn't going to happen. And my parents weren't buying their headstone because they weren't dead yet, you know. So like they weren't
You'll get
thinking,
it
they
done
were
in
smart
advance.
to buy the plot because I guess they had some plot sale. I don't know. Um and so I spent that first year finding any which way to decorate and honor that space, because that was the space that represented her. And so I became real crafty and made wreaths and did all those kind of things. And then eventually I had to go back to work because, I was we needed money. And so I went back to work as a pre-K teacher. And it wasn't so bad because they were little, and it was kind of nice to like not have to tell my story over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's some okayness to that like you're not they don't know you as the sad one.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
yeah. And honestly, just kind of continued to keep going. I found a lot of joy in just being a mom after. Once my Grayson and Zoe, they're 3 years apart. So once they were both born and just, I was just a stay at home mom, that's pretty much what my life revolved around for a really long time.
Yeah.
And that was okay with me, until, and then again my parents died, and my mom, what her whole life was being a mom. And there's nothing wrong with your whole life being a mom. I loved it. But as Logan, my youngest, was 3, I was like, I want more when he goes to kindergarten. Like, what else am I going to do? And so again, that's kind of where all of this kind of blossomed from there, is that like I started writing more. I started, saying, well, I wonder if I could do a podcast. I wonder if I could do this, and started sharing. And it's just kind of bloomed from there. And I have been in a couple anthologies. I've shared my parents' story in an anthology, and I've shared Olivia's story in an anthology. And then I created my own anthology of pregnancy, loss. So 8 authors, including myself, shared their story. And then inside the book, there's also a space where people could submit their baby's name, because I know that's a really big part of being a lost mom, is being able to share your baby's name and just say it out loud, and then just having a little bit of resources. And then we are currently working on a follow-up book to that one on pregnancy after loss, because it's actually one thing that I think is not shared as much as it should be, because it is a beast. And you talked about like writing Gracie's story and how that was so healing in the tears. Going back and writing Zoe's story, like her pregnancy, oh my God, so healing, and so just like, wow, we went through a lot.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, yeah. Like
Mhm.
I thought Olivia's story was definitely hard, but there's just something, because we're also writing about hope when you're writing about your pregnancy with Zoe. And I remember like in the process of like writing it, I remember because she's 15. So I texted her, I was like, I love you, kid. Like you have no idea how much hope you brought to me and your dad, in that time. And I was talking to Nate, my husband, and I was like, I realized that like that first year, because we were still freshly married. I mean, we were married only a year, and then a month later, we lost Olivia. So our second year of marriage, literally, first year of marriage is we're gonna have a baby we weren't expecting. Second year of marriage is we're gonna grieve a baby we weren't expecting to even, so like all of the like we were a mess.
Yeah.
Like I don't even realize I don't even know how we survived
Yeah.
because we were a mess. And then by our, middle of our third year of marriage, we were expecting Zoe. And I, as I'm writing, can tell how much hope and love and life came back to my husband and I being pregnant with Zoe. And it's just, I didn't see that parallel. I didn't realize any of that till I wrote it down.
My rainbow baby, Amelia, who's not a baby anymore, she's
I
12.
know. They grow so fast.
Oh
It's
my
so
god.
fast.
So she surprised me 'cause she's not big into like reading. She doesn't really like reading, right? She'll read the like the graphic novels and stuff, right? But she asked me, when I started getting copies of my book, she asked me, "Mom, can I read your book?" And I said, "Well, of course. Here's your copy." And so she's been coming to me as she's been reading it, and she's like, "Mom, I'm at the part in your book where you're talking about, Gracie being born." And I'm just like, this is the coolest thing.
Yeah.
Like, she is reading not only her sister's story, but her story too. And she will have that forever.
Yeah.
And it's just so cool how there's something about rainbow babies.
No, there yeah, there really is. Yeah,
Really
there's
special,
yeah,
and, like
yeah, they are.
and I
Yeah,
say it all the time, like, she has saved my life so many times, you know?
yeah,
Just having to get up and take care of her or, like, on a day where I'm just grieving hard and just really sad, like, she will come to me and she will just say the funniest thing, and I will laugh, and I will just be so thankful for her.
yeah,
And, now she's getting older. She's like, "Mom, I feel like I know Gracie. I know I never met her, but I feel like I know her." And I don't know about you, but like, I've had people tell me online and in person that, I feel sorry for your second child because you talk about your dead child so much. And if they could just interview my 12-year-old right now, like, they would take that back. They would not,
yeah.
you know?
Mhm. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, yeah. Uh, all 3 of the kids, they all have relationships with their sister,
Yeah.
100%, and they have positive relationships and grief relationship too. They have both, you know. And I know that I don't know about you, but like for myself, I was not prepared for their grief. Like I expected my grief and I whatever, but I didn't anticipate that just because they didn't know her, that they would grieve her. And then I was like slapped in the face with it real quick. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh shit, well, yeah, duh. Like that makes a whole lot of sense. If you're going to talk about her and she's going to be a member of your family, they're
They're
going
gonna know
to
her.
miss her,
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so that's a whole nother like layer of grief and loss that as a mom, you're just like, crap. That sucks. But at the same time, as you said, it's also beautiful because we created space for them to have these open, honest conversations that they can have an open, honest relationship with their sister.
I also
Yeah.
think it's really important for them to see us cry and to see
Mhm.
us grieve because, growing up, I never saw my parents cry,
Mm.
you know? And there was it was like a year ago or so, and I was just having the worst day. I was in bed, I was crying, I didn't want anything to do with anybody, and Amelia came into my room, and she laid on the bed with me, and she's like, "Mom, why are you sad?" And I said, "I just miss Gracie a lot today. I wish she was here." And she's like, "I wish she was here too." And but like it was like the ugly
Yeah,
crying,
yeah,
like the stuff that most parents would, go into the bathroom and hide so their
yeah,
kid can't see it. But I've over time I've been, you know, more open with her and honest about my grief and like this hurts a lot. And I think it's really important for kids to see that because then they don't hide their grief later in
yeah,
life, you know? And just
yeah.
being that, I don't know, example of like, this is what it is to be human,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Growing up, we didn't see it. They hid it behind closed doors or under covers and all those things. And, you know, that's kind of I feel like that's the job as a parent is we always not that my parents not that our parents weren't wonderful
Right.
and great and did the best they could. We just always are going to strive to be a little bit better because that's what you want. I want my kids to be better than I was as a parent. I want them to learn from my mistakes so that they can continue to grow. And so I think that's just what we're doing is just, that healing that, generational trauma, or not even just trauma necessarily, just generational parenting gaps that happen naturally.
Yeah.
So parenting's wild.
There's so
All of
many,
it's wild.
oh my gosh, there's so many times where I'm just like, I don't want to be a parent right now. Be the kid.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes do you feel guilty for all that though? Because sometimes I feel like if I say, "Oh my gosh," like I'll go to my husband and be like, "Why do we have kids?" Because like
Yeah.
I'm still human, but then I'm like, what are people thinking if I'm like, why did I have kids and I lost a child? Like I will go through that like in my head. Like I say something that's very normal for a regular old mom to say, but then I'm like, well, maybe I shouldn't be saying that because I'm a lost mom.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know, like,
Right.
which in reality, I'm still a mom. Like, I experience, like, doesn't mean I'm not any less grateful for my living children. They still drive me up a wall. Like,
Yup.
and so they should like they're kids.
They're
That's what I
kids.
want them to do. But I should still have the ability to complain about it. I
Mhm.
think that, you
Yeah.
know,
Yep.
yeah, and I think sometimes people think I shouldn't. I feel like
I
people are like,
think you think that
"Yeah,
other
yeah,
people think that you
yes,
shouldn't.
yeah, yep, yep, yeah, absolutely." I definitely fall into that trap sometimes.
I do too. Mhm.
Yeah,
It's always good. Yeah, I've done a couple of these, guest podcasts with lost moms, and, like, every single time it's just I made a new friend,
yeah, yeah,
Liz, and
yeah,
I'm grateful to know you, I'm grateful to know Olivia's story, and I'm just I don't know, new
yeah,
friendship. It's always
yeah.
good.
I 100% agree. Honored to know you and honored to know Gracie's story. And again, just a new friend and just, you know, uh, something about trauma bond. It's good.
Yeah, it is good.